sort of how my day went today. First of all, I did have a good meeting with the Tarrant County Sheriff, Sheriff Wayborn. We were able to work things out and clarify my status so that his officers would leave me alone, or his deputies, excuse me. So that's been fixed. He's aware of my status and the law, all that. So anyway, that was the good part. So the second part of my day was while I was up in Tarrant County, and this is kind of what I want to educate people on, is, I had a case where a client was charged with unlawful carry of a weapon. It wasn't that he did anything with the weapon, it was just he got charged with having a small amount of weed, and when they searched his car, they found a gun in there. So the gun had nothing to do with anything. As a matter of fact, he was only pulled over for, like, I don't remember if it was a license plate or registration or something like that was the so-called probable cause for it. And so they charged him not only with the weed possession, but also with unlawful carry of a weapon. And I don't generally take drug cases, but I do take gun cases. And I believe that the UCW law is unconstitutional. But he didn't have the time or the money to fight the constitutionality of it. So we agreed to a plea deal, which is a pretty good plea deal. It's going to come off his record. And but the state required that he also surrender his firearm, which was a dead ender for me. I never agreed to surrendering a firearm for a plea deal, especially if it's not going to make that person a prohibited person. And the case, even if he got convicted of both of those, he would not be a prohibited person under state or federal law. So I didn't agree to that, but again, he wanted to take the plea deal. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, you still owe me a little bit of money. Why don't we do this? I'll just waive all the money you owe me if you'll just sign over the pistol to me, because I can't stand to see a gun get destroyed. So if you just sign over the gun to me, I'll just waive any other fees that you owe me, and I'll just take the gun as payment. I mean, it wasn't a good gun. We're talking an SCCY, like $250. It's was it the CX2 or something like that? I can't remember what the CR2. Anyway, so I go to the Fort Worth PD property with the order in hand. So the judge agreed to allow me to retrieve the gun, that it was to come to me, and the police were supposed to give it to me. He signed an order ordering Fort Worth Police Department to surrender the firearm to me. So I go to Fort Worth Police Department evidence section. I go in there, so everything's fine. I give them my ID and all that kind of stuff. And then they asked me for my social security number. And I said, well, I'm not going to give you my social security number. Oh, well, then you're not getting the gun. I said, excuse me? Well, we require the social security number if you're going to get the gun, because we have to do a background check. Well, I said, sorry, but federal law doesn't allow you to use a social security number for identification purposes. And I said, I do background checks all the time. All you've got to do, all you need is my name, my full name, my date of birth, and address. That's it. Now, you can ask for my social security number, but I'm not required to give. Well, that's our policy. I don't care about your policy. Your policy violates federal law. I said, even the ATF doesn't require a social security number when you're doing a background check. Well, we're not the ATF. Yeah. It's the same system. I don't care about any of that. Literally, this is what she's telling me. I don't care about any of that. I said, you don't care about, one, the fact that I have a court order ordering you to give me this gun, and two, that there's a federal law stating I don't have to give you my social security number for identification purposes. We're not doing it for identification purposes, sir. We need it for a background check. I'm like, do you just hear what you said? A background check is identification. You are trying to identify me to see if I'm a prohibited person. That's exactly what you're doing. And she, essentially, they're like, oh, I don't care. She got this whole attitude like, oh, there's a piece of glass between me and you, so I don't really care. I'm just not going to do what you say. Okay, so I got their names. And I went out to my car to get my phone, and I pulled up the federal law, and I went back in and I showed them. I was like, okay, here's the federal law. Are you going to violate Section 7 of the Privacy Act? And are you also going to violate 5 U.S.C. 552A of the Social Security Act, where I'm not required, and you're not allowed to demand and require my social security number for anything other than application of benefits. And I'm not applying for benefits. And so she played the same game where she thinks she knows better than I do. I said, okay, why don't you go get a supervisor before I file my federal charges against you? So she went and got a supervisor. Supervisor came out, and gee, what do you know? When you threaten a federal lawsuit for violation of federal law, suddenly, oh, well, we don't need the social security number. No kidding. I knew that. Your little underlings here probably know that. But yet it took me essentially having to make a threat of a lawsuit to get them to do the right thing. So they hated the fact that they had to take my stuff and give me, without the social security number. So here's the deal, folks. They get away with anything you let them get away with. Don't let them get away with it. You do not have to use your social security number for anything other than applying for social security benefits. Nobody, other than an employer, because that's where social security benefits come from, other than an employer, for the purposes of tracking your social security benefits, can ask you for your social security card, or number, excuse me. And if they do, if you happen to be one of those people that they unlawfully arrest you and they take your handgun and you go to pick it up and they're like, okay, we got to do the background check, and that handgun, they ask you for your social security number, you do not have to give your social security number. Okay, the federal law, there's two of them. It's Section 7 of the Privacy Act. You just got to quote that to them. And then also United States Code 552A is the other part of the Social Security Act that both say you are not required to give your social security number, and they cannot even require that you do so. No policy can overturn federal law, period. Your social security number is a federally controlled number that you have for federal social security benefits alone. And what's interesting is the law is very clear. It says it cannot be used for identification purposes. And they literally try to skirt the law by saying, well, sir, we're not asking for it for identification purposes. I said, that's exactly what you're asking it for. You're trying to identify whether or not I'm a felon or a prohibited person. Doing a background check. I do Form 1s, Form 4s, 4473s with the ATF all the time. And even with the ATF, it's optional. Now, does it mean it might take longer to get back results? Yes, I understand that. And he even told me, he's like, well, if you don't get the social security number, it might take a little bit more time. I said, yep, I know. And I'm fine. I'll wait. I'm not in any hurry. You guys do what you got to do, but you're going to do it legally. If you're going to demand that I follow the law, you're going to follow the law. And we've just got to start demanding that these people follow the law. So I've given you the code that you can use. I'm always trying to empower people to stand up for themselves. There are some people, why don't you just give them their social security number anyway? It's not like they don't have it. I realize that. Well, heck, if all they, why even charge a serial killer? I mean, after all, he's been killing for a long time. Might as well just let him keep. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like your social security number is a secret. They probably already have it. Yeah, they probably already do. But I'm not going to make their jobs easier using a number that they should never be using for identification, and neither should you. So you always need to stand up. Don't allow microaggressions against your rights. Don't allow macroaggressions against your rights. You need to stand up for your rights everywhere. If law enforcement and government officials do not have the authority to do something, don't surrender that authority. Don't surrender your rights to that perceived authority. Stand behind making them fall within the limits of that authority, and that's what you've got to do. So there you go. A really quick video just to let you know everything was fixed. All you got to do is show them the law, and again, it's Section 7 of the Privacy Act, and Section 7 of the Privacy Act, and 5 USC 552A. I hope I got that right. I think I got that right, of the Social Security Act. I think you can also, maybe if you just Google, am I required to give my social security number, maybe, I'm sure there's somewhere out there that probably tells you the same thing. But I just don't let them get away with it. All this stuff, they've created all these policies. For example, in Texas law, under the Code of Criminal Procedure, Section 18.19, this is another tip for you, Section 18.19, if you take a plea deal or you take, now remember, a plea deal is an agreement, it's like a contract, right? You don't have to surrender your firearm. Like, you can say, I don't want to surrender my firearm. If I plead to this, I'm not a prohibited person, so I want my firearm back. There's no reason to surrender my firearm. But under Code of Criminal Procedure 18.19, once the punishment of a conviction is over, so like probation or whatever, the judge shall, the word is shall, return your firearm. Okay, now you do have to apply, you have to request it. You need to request it within 60 days. So once your case is over with, whether it's dismissed, you're found guilty, you're found innocent, whatever, you need to request officially through the court that you have your gun returned to you. And the court is required, it's not discretionary, the court is required to give you your gun back as long as the gun is not stolen and you are not a prohibited person. That's it. And so they don't have discretion to say, well, I'm not going to give it back to you. You know, that's just not what I do. Well, sorry, Judge, you don't have that authority. You literally do not. That is outside of your jurisdiction to prevent someone who is not a prohibited person, who does not have a stolen firearm, and you can't keep it, and you can't prevent him from getting it back. So I've had at least one judge I've had to go toe-to-toe with on this issue. But it's funny how every time I file one of these, the judge always calls over the prosecutor and says, you know, do you have any objection to this? Which the prosecutors never object to it because they know that the law is very clear. They really can't object to it, giving the gun back, because it's state law. But the fact that the judge even asks them if they object to it shouldn't even be a matter of something. I mean, this is a judge. He should know the law, that it's required to give it back. So there you go. Just a little bit of information there about guns and how to protect your rights. You guys take care, be safe, be free. I'm going to end this, and I'm on my way back from Fort Worth right now. Take care.